At your leisure.
I don't. We are a couple minutes late getting started.
Okay.
But when you're ready,
I'm with you. I'm ready, Madam Chair. I'm just Madam Bash. As my mother would say.
Then let's go. Are you ready? Okay. We'll begin the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, all, and welcome to the February 24th meeting of the County Commissioners. We usually begin our meetings with a moment of silence in remembrance of those who have passed away in the service of our country, and also to remember those who are currently fighting in areas around the world. Thank you. So as we move on to public comment, I see we have some guests here this morning who came for the very purpose of talking to us about Silent Spring. So I'd like to invite you to introduce yourselves, and the floor is yours. Cheryl?
Would you like to all sit up here?
Yeah, you can sit in the front row. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi. Good morning.
Whoever would like to speak first. Bill? Yes, and introduce and identify yourselves, not only for us, but for the public as well.
Okay, thank you for letting us be here.
Mhm.
I'm Cheryl Lozano. I'm the CAPE coordinator for Silent Spring Institute, and I'm here with two of our scientists, Dr. Shader from Silent Spring Institute, and also Ruth Ann Budella, toxicologist from Silent Spring Institute. And I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Shader.
Great. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for letting us be here today.
We're glad to have you.
So, as you're aware, many Cape residents are concerned about elevated breast cancer incidence on the Cape, and they have questions about chemicals in drinking water and in their homes. And for more than 15 years, Silent Spring Institute has been addressing these concerns, and we're asking for the county's help to continue our Cape-based water research program. Silent Spring Institute was founded in 1994 by the Mass Breast Cancer Coalition, who wanted a scientific exploration of the causes for elevated breast cancer incidence on the Cape. Our breast cancer and the environment study, which included over 2,000 women here in the Cape, showed that factors such as an older population, in-migration from the places to the Cape, mammography rates, and heredity did not explain the elevated incidence. So through our research, we want to understand links between chemicals in our everyday environment and our health. We're especially interested in hormone disruptors. These are chemicals that can mimic the behavior of natural hormones in our bodies. Estrogen mimicking hormones may play a role in breast cancer, and there are other health effects of these types of chemicals as well. The primary goal of our water research program is to gain a better understanding of the types and levels of hormone disruptors, pharmaceuticals, and other wastewater chemicals in the waters of Cape Cod. Cape drinking water supplies may be especially vulnerable to contaminants coming from wastewater because chemicals can make their way through septic systems, leach into the groundwater, and end up in drinking water wells. We previously documented hormone disruptors in septage, in groundwater, and in drinking water wells, and showed that these chemicals can travel downstream through the groundwater. And we've also detected hormones and pharmaceuticals in Cape Cod ponds. Right now, we've got a study underway to test for these kinds of chemicals in Cape Cod public drinking water supply wells, and we're grateful for the participation of many of the water districts in this study. From the study, we can better address questions such as, how do the levels of wastewater chemicals in Cape drinking water supplies compare to other locations? Which types of chemicals are most commonly found? And are the wells that are located in more densely populated areas, do they tend to be more impacted by these chemicals? The answers to these questions have implications for planning upgrades to wastewater infrastructure and decisions about how to protect drinking water supplies. There's a lot of debate about nitrate right now, and we think that these other types of contaminants should also be considered in these kinds of debates. So we've done a lot already, but there are still unanswered questions for the future. And building on our past achievements, here are 3 potential directions to take our research in the future. So first off, we'd like to study private wells to extend our current work. And as you're aware, private wells provide water to about 1 in 5 Cape residents. So this study will indicate whether the levels of wastewater chemicals are higher in private wells than in public wells, and it will help us learn how we might predict which wells are most likely to be vulnerable. The answers to these types of questions have implications for planning residential development and for wastewater or for water supply planning. Secondly, this study will show how well septic systems remove emerging contaminants from wastewater. There have been a number of studies looking at centralized wastewater treatment plants to understand how well these types of chemicals are removed, but far less is known about how well septic systems remove these types of chemicals, and that's important for understanding which chemicals would make their way into groundwater. And lastly, as I mentioned, we found low levels of hormones and pharmaceuticals in ponds on Cape Cod. In other places, low levels of hormones have been found to affect fish reproduction in fish. But to our knowledge, no one knows if these effects are occurring in fish in Cape Cod ponds. Throughout all of our research, Silent Spring Institute places great emphasis on our partnership with the public and with Cape Cod stakeholders. We welcome opportunities to speak at local conferences and at meetings of local groups such as watershed associations. In fact, we have an event tonight co-sponsored with the Sierra Club and the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Falmouth to discuss the issue of emerging contaminants and wastewater treatment. In the future, we envision developing a Cape-wide program where we offer interpretations and advice to towns who want to better understand how the results of our studies and other studies relate to their own wastewater and drinking water management plans. It takes about $120,000 a year at a minimum to conduct this kind of research, both to support our research staff and to pay for specialized chemical analyses. Lack of funding has slowed down our progress in the past. We've applied for funding from national organizations, but I've often been told that this is a Cape Cod problem, not a national problem. We rely on federal appropriations, one-year grants from the Mass Environmental Trust, and donations from individuals and foundations. But the uncertainties in obtaining funding make it hard to plan for long-range projects. So we welcome your support in continuing this work that has benefits for all Cape residents and the environment.
Did you want to say something? No. I guess my first question is the testing. How do you do the testing? Do you solicit it or not solicit it? Do you use other facilities to do the testing? You don't have your own equipment.
We don't have
to
our
test
own lab.
them.
We rely
So
on
you actually
commercial labs.
contract with a lab to do the testing for you? Okay. I guess my other question has to do with collaboration, because the county has a Department of Health that does they do a lot of water sampling on the Cape. Now that's sampling. Obviously, I don't think it tests to what you're looking at, which are the contaminants in the drinking water, and the what do they call them? The personal care products.
Right.
I think is what they're referred to. And not the equipment isn't in some cases sophisticated enough to even test for those products. But the laboratories that you use can do that.
Right.
They
There
can.
are actually a limited number of labs that really can measure these trace levels. So
Mhm.
the county lab, for instance, wouldn't have those capabilities, but there are a few
I
commercial
was going
labs.
to say, I don't know, because over the past few years, they've really beefed up some of the equipment that they have, gas chromatographs. And
Here.
All here.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I don't know. That's
Mhm.
the only question. Because I was going to say that there's something we might be able to do, because obviously, when we do those tests
Right.
for a town, we have a reduced rate. There might be some way
Right.
we do something like that.
Yes, I know. I attended one of the conferences at Webner on this, on the personal care products, and I know that at the Universalist Church tonight, you're doing that. Fortunately, we have a hearing on the ocean management plan at the same time. But I know Melissa Freitag, one of the selectmen in Falmouth, is attending the meeting tonight, because I think the towns are very interested in this as well. So I think there's an opportunity for some kind of collaboration here. either with the towns, with the county, and because we're all interested in the same information.
Mhm.
You're interested in it from your perspective in that sense, but I'm sure you're interested as well for all the other reasons why everybody else is interested in having that information. Sheila?
I was just going to ask two questions. First, I believe that George, in his budget proposals for next year, has put in that he's going to be looking at these issues, that it was something that they didn't really focus on.
Right, on the pharmaceutical
On the
piece,
pharmaceutical
exactly.
pieces.
That's becoming a
That's
much
right.
bigger focus for
Right,
all
because
of
the
water
outcry
testing.
is coming, so there
Yeah.
is going to be pursuit of those types of grants for them, for our health department to look at those issues. So there is maybe a discussion that can be had there. In your experience, when you're talking about different treatment systems, and we know that centralized systems, sewering systems, deal best with nitrate problems and that sort of thing. Do you have any data as to what their effectiveness is in removing any of these hormones or any of these chemicals?
As I said, so we don't have our own data, but there have been studies
And that's
previously
fine.
done.
And what do the studies say in regards to sewering systems being able to remove more of those?
I mean, I think
Do we know? Is there any?
in general, I'd say the answer is it depends. You know, it
Mhm.
depends on exactly which treatment steps are done. My sense is that the centralized systems do a better job.
Mhm.
But again, it depends if you have advanced treatment on your septic system or just a basic
Right.
wastewater treatment plant. The answer might vary, and it varies for different types of chemicals. Some chemicals break down pretty readily, some are more persistent.
So what
But the speaker tonight.
can answer some of these things?
Who is the speaker tonight? by the way?
So I will be presenting
Oh, you-
our past
Mhm.
research here on the Cape, and then we have an environmental engineering professor coming from UMass Amherst, and
Mhm.
he's been actively involved with understanding how drinking water and wastewater treatment processes remove these emerging contaminants.
What time is your meeting?
It's at 7.
7 at the.
And he'll probably be talking around 7:45.
At the university. Okay, you.
Sandwich
It's in
Road.
the toll, isn't it?
No,
It's on
it's
Sandwich Road in East
It's
Canada.
right. It's down from 151. It's not far off 151.
Sandwich Road?
Sandwich Road. If you come down from the Mashpee Rotary to Sandwich Road to
Oh, yes.
151,
I know, yeah.
the lights.
Yeah.
There's a light at Sandwich Road. You take a left,
Okay.
and the church is about a mile down
Right.
on the right.
I can give you the directions.
I know
Yeah.
exactly where it
Yeah.
is right now.
So,
Okay.
uh,
I can see it.
Yeah, see, this is really important, and I know it's important because of your work, which is extremely important for all of us. But it's so important for everything that the at least here in Barnstable County and the towns are doing with our wastewater issues and plans to try to reduce nitrogen. Because in doing that, we also have to reduce all of the personal care products. We have to remove them somehow. And I know. I read the other day, or I heard the other day, that people ask all the time, how do I get rid of my medications? Well, I think it was Barnstable. One of the towns had a collection day where you could bring in all the meds that you don't use anymore. And others say, well, I can't throw it in the trash because in some cases the trash goes to landfills. So you don't want to put it in your trash. But in some towns where the trash is incinerated, you could put it in your trash. And then someone told me just the other day that if you put certain medications in coffee grounds, that coffee grounds have a tendency to neutralize the medications, and they don't have the same effect. Now, I don't know how true that is, but that's out there too.
So the current advice for most medications is to put them in your trash, except for a limited number of controlled substances. The recommendation about putting it in coffee grounds or kitty litter is just to make it unattractive for someone to take it out of the trash and eat it. I don't think
And you
anyone
don't
would
think
claim
it
that it
has any
neutralizes
chemical
it.
advantage.
Right.
Actually, coffee grounds have been used for the controlled substances in order to mask them when they were basically moving them across the border, because that made them less apt to be picked up by the dogs that were trained to identify the substances. So that makes a lot of sense to me.
So,
Where is your funding now?
So currently we have funding from the Mass Environmental Trust, from the Centers for Disease Control, for the water program. There are other
What would you
sources.
like to see happen here with the county? I mean, if all was possible, a collaboration, a partnership, being able to use the lab facilities, going together on a grant to study these issues. There's only, as we all know, there's only so much grant money around, and everybody's, we're trying not to all be trying to get into that same pot.
Less and less.
Less and less,
Part of the
and and more people are saying, not if you can come up with a collaboration, you're more likely to access this as opposed to you doing this over here and then we give money over there and it's the same purpose. Those are the types of situations? Do you have any concrete ideas as far as how we could work together on this? All of the above?
We would certainly be interested in looking at what equipment they have in the laboratory here, just to see whether it is actually equipment that could be used for.
Yeah,
Some
I'm
of these
turning around. I
purposes.
think if you know what you're looking for, if you can give me a list of what you're doing, you can run that by Gongmin and George, and we can say, yes, we have that capability. No, we don't. No, we don't. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. That type of thing. We could certainly do that.
Well, we're thinking like an in-kind, some could be an in-kind contribution in terms of things that we could do that advance
If there was
your
a
efforts.
if there was a capability to, let's say, analyze trace levels of estrogen or other hormones or certain pharmaceuticals here, then we wouldn't have to pay $500 a pop for another lab to do it, and you would be funding a staff person here, which is better for you, obviously. But it is specialized equipment, and they are specialized enough as they're like 3 or 4 labs in the U.S. So I'm a little, I'm not that optimistic, but we certainly should look into it.
And then
Okay. Go ahead. Oh, am I going to go first?
Yeah, you go first.
My other question is, you were saying that you would, you're working with some of the health departments across the Cape, and yet you would still like to have some access to private wells. Is that something that you haven't been able to have access to yet, or have you been
We
able
just
to?
we decided for the first phase of this project to focus on public wells. So
Mhm.
we've been working with the public suppliers, and public wells supply the majority of water on the Cape. So we started there, and in the past we've asked people whether they want to, whether they'd be interested in
Mhm.
participating in a study of private wells. So we already have a number of people who have in the past expressed an interest. So
But you have yet been able
we
to
just
do it
haven't done
because
it.
you haven't
Money.
had the money and the resources to do it. Okay.
So the money that you're looking for, though, would be mostly for testing, or would it be for other activities that you are doing as well?
We
The money that
we could
you-
designate it in a variety of ways. There are many kind of functions or activities that we do in the course of doing the work. So, for example, we pay for our scientific staff time. We collect the samples. We identify people who are eligible. We use various techniques to then select wells that are going to be higher payoff, since it costs so much essentially per sample. We also, and then there's the analysis, which takes usually a big chunk out. And then we do really quite a lot of writing and outreach. We do meetings and activities, and that's really a place where if we had money to add, to fund somebody part-time here on the Cape who was knowledgeable on those issues and would be very connected with our work, maybe that could extend what we can do here in terms of that kind of being involved in the wastewater planning and discussions and meetings and bringing
help
this
you
research.
Do your PR and get the word out that that you're looking for these types of wells. I mean,
I'm thinking mostly to bring information from this research to these debates and decisions that have to be made.
Mhm.
Bill?
As I understand it, and what you presented so far, you're talking about what sounds like a data reduction service, where you're taking information that has been contracted out to a to a physical facility that does the collection, performs directed analysis. You take that information and then somehow compile it and reduce it to, in terms of an application. You're not talking about countermeasures as much as you're talking about the presence of contaminants and as I hear it, and their relationship to a contribution to the possible effects that contribute to, in this case, breast cancer. Is that what I understand?
At this point, this water work is really focused on trying to understand the level of contamination of the supplies and how, and to understand whether and how the Cape Cod exposures may be different from other parts, but it's not part of an ongoing health study.
Okay, then if I may, in a follow-up, when you talk about private wells, the beneficiary from the potential of the identification of contaminants in a private well is the owner of the private well. In some instances, an owner has an option of connecting to a public water supply or maintaining the access to a private water supply. I believe that in the communities, the health agents have the responsibility of evaluating the quality of the water from a private well to determine whether or not it's beyond potable and the amount of purity that it has. Are you receiving any, in your contact with the water departments, are you receiving any comment from the health agents that are located in these individual communities of a concern or evidence of a deterioration in the quality of water that has been collected or has been, let's say, been tested for purity from these private wells?
Well, I'm aware that for an extended period of time that in some regions of the Cape there's an issue with private well water quality, like in Wellfleet and Eastham, and where there isn't a public water option. And that's one part of the question. And the other, I guess you asked about health agents and their involvement, and so we have actually we are involving them in kind of keeping them informed about what we've been doing with the public supply, and they'll be in the loop as that gets rolled out.
You had mentioned in the beginning an interest in seeing what the contribution of pharmaceuticals and personal care products in terms of affect. The Wastewater Collaborative, which is a county activity, has, I believe, brought to our attention the need of pursuing the level of
Detection?
not just detection, but let's say the
Impact.
Removal?
The amount that is present in terms of concentrations in our present water supply. So I know that there's a sort of a general interest in supporting what the Wastewater Collaborative is trying to do, because they are responsible for maintaining the overall management planning approach to this problem. And that might be because I think that one of the concerns that we have is, rather than just take a position that we'd like to help you out, but we don't have any money. I think you're also looking for avenues in which we could perhaps suggest that would be an appropriate use of public money to support what essentially is, however well-intentioned, a private agency, so that we are acting appropriately to support the tax money that we receive.
Well, the first thing, I think the level of interest in this is huge. It's huge at the county level and it's huge at the town level, because we're all engaged in the wastewater management planning. I mean, every town is, and certain towns, as you know, are further along than others. Some towns, and all of the towns, are looking to the various treatment methods, whether it's sewer, whether it's on-site systems, whether those on-site systems are Title V, or whether they're Nitrex, or whether there are other innovative alternatives that you hear that are coming on the market all the time. And the big question is, in addition to the nitrogen, how do we ensure that these personal care products are removed? How are they found or detected, and how are they treated and removed? And I know from some of the workshops I've been to that California has attempted to do a lot more in that in the detection and treatment. If the towns choose to use a sewer system, then there's certain other equipment, if you will, that has to be done in order to remove personal care products from the wastewater. Whether on the on-site systems, I don't know, but the wastewater collaborative, I think, is going to be taking on the effort to look at the different models that are out there, and not sewer, but the on-site systems, and evaluate them so that every town doesn't have to do its own evaluation of an on-site system. But this is all part of it, and I think your perspective is based on the work that you've been doing for quite a while now, and extraordinary work, really, I think, from a public health perspective. And then all of this other is what you want to accomplish at the same time. You have your specific goals, but they tie right in to the overarching goals of the county and the towns. So I think what we need to do is figure out how we can bring you into this and help get you what you need, while at the same time we meet our own needs. And I think that can be done with collaboration, rather than maybe necessarily with just direct funding, because we really don't have money, but we may have other resources and ways in which we can help you achieve your goals at the same time.
First of all, I just want to say I know that must be extremely frustrating for people like yourselves who are trying to get this work done, and for those who have been victims of cancer and various other diseases, that we sort of intuitively know something's not right, and it might be the water, it might be, and yet you can't seem to get off enough funding to actually establish, is it these chemicals, or is it something that's that's a byproduct of acid rain that is affecting our waters, in addition to just nitrogen and that sort of thing. So, and what does even nitrogen have, in excess amounts of nitrogen in our waters? What does that have to do with us? I mean, maybe that has a byproduct that we're not aware of. So, and I know that it's sort of like the last thing thought about. We're thinking about the nitrogen. We're thinking about just making sure that everything is at acceptable levels that we can drink. And what is an acceptable level? Those things seem to change every 20 years once more data comes in. I would like to propose that, maybe we speak with the collaborative and the commission and our health departments and George, and say, where is the opportunity where we can collaborate and go for grants and make it part of our wastewater studies and focus, and maybe in that regard we'd be more successful in obtaining that grant money, and then maybe if there was a collaboration of in kind, if we happen to have the equipment available, if we have it on site, how can we do that research? I mean, that happens a lot with ourselves and other.
And the other thing is the whole prevention piece too. How do you keep those products from getting into the water in the first place?
Okay.
And just the disposal factor alone,
Right.
aside from all the other biological factors.
Are the fire departments part? I know that they do their hazard. At the fire stations, that's where the hazardous wastes are brought once a month. Shops. I believe they collect pharmaceuticals as well, do they not? Is that the drop-off? I'm trying to think back of all the things that are dropped off.
They
New,
do.
isn't it? I
No,
think just
because
one
there's-
town did.
I've heard of a couple. I
There's
think one or
issues
two
with
towns.
especially
Okay.
controlled substances. You
Yeah.
can't just hand them off to
Right,
somebody.
Right, because then you have to
Well,
keep
pharmacies have offered to have, like CVS, I
Yeah.
think, has offered to have people
Return.
bring their
You can return it,
right
yeah.
directly to the pharmacy.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes, they did it not so long ago.
Yeah.
They publicized it. Please bring your prescriptions or
Basically
your
a bag.
unused medications.
They were providing, I think, some disposal bags.
Yeah, or something. I'm not sure exactly. There was something. Or CVS did something about that at one point.
There are a couple, points I wanted to just make a respond to. I think there are great opportunities for collaboration. I think that the research that we're doing, it comes from the concern about breast cancer, but it's really more generalized environmental health research and relevant to all kinds of health outcomes. I think that that one of the specific questions that we're interested in is how do alternative types of septic systems remove these, and so an opportunity for collaboration would be that I think George Hufelder does manage that alternative treatment center, and we have been wanting for some time to work with him there, to get in there and to do some work. And so if that could be facilitated, that'd be great. I mean, we still have to find the money, but at least getting access is an important part.
Right.
And getting support, like letters of support for proposals or collaboration and proposals from the county could also be helpful.
I think what would work at this point is if you gave us a specific presentation of what it is that you would be looking for, whether it's collaboration or not, but the information you need or the testing requirements that you need, and whether it's in the relationship to data, what is it that you actually need? If you were going to get this funding, how would you use it based on what you need? You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're asking for
This is what
proposal.
I'm
That's really
asking
what
in a
we
sense
need.
for a
I mean,
proposal.
there's a couple of,
So that we could take that proposal, because this is what you need, and turn it over to the collaborative, to the wastewater collaborative, and say,
To the health department.
and to our health department, and say, how can we as a county respond to this proposal? How can we provide this service?
For example, George has data from the test center. Data he's got that coming out
Right.
of his ears. The health lab may or may not have the ability to do the analysis that you need. I would say that some of these are very sophisticated and get to be very expensive. I'm not sure we could do it in kind in the sense that there's no charge at all,
Right.
but we certainly could do it at a reduced rate. And,
Yes.
And
Right.
be sensitive
Yeah,
about
very
that.
reduced.
But there's that potential as well. But if you put that proposal together, I think what Chairman is saying is then we'd be able to respond to it. We say, well, this we can do, this we can do, this we can do to this level, this we can't do at all. That kind of
And we
thing.
might also respond in a way that says that we're already doing some of these things if we knew that what you're asking
Excuse
for.
me, for interjecting. Would it be possible for you to provide Silent Spring Institute with some of the information that, guiding us as to the work that you're doing, so that we're not duplicating efforts, and we could better then evaluate how we move forward?
Yeah, well,
They're followed on the website.
Because, I mean, as you know, in the past, we have provided you with a proposal, one specifically that I can remember, and, we were either duplicating efforts or somehow that proposal was used without, it gets very confusing. And so I think that because we're one organization trying to do a specific part of the research, to build on the research we've been doing for many, many years, if you could share with us as a county what you're doing, and perhaps the grants that maybe would be appropriate for us to work on together to seek out money, because the bottom line here is that we really do need financial support. We have, as you know, received millions of dollars from the state. They have been extremely supportive to us, and our federal government has also been very, very supportive to us. And throughout the years, we have never come to the county, never reached out to the county, and here we are, working on this research, and Cape citizens, in fact, wanted us to do this research. This is why this institute was founded back in 1993, 1994. And I feel that, the Assembly of Delegates years ago did provide us with $25,000 to keep our office open. That was very important. We then decided to close our office because we really want to use the money that we're able to obtain to do research. And so we've been very responsible in how we've handled the money that has been generously given to us by the state, federal government, and to private donors. But now, I mean, we really do need to reach out to Cape Cod, where we've been doing this research since 1994, and I feel that the time has come that I feel this is urgent. I feel that this is urgent, and it's not just about, in kind. In fact, going back to what we were talking about earlier, I even question, and I'm not a researcher, I'm not a scientist, I'm a layperson. I even question whether or not it's ethical for Cape Cod to be doing all of their own water testing with their own lab. I think that there are times when it's appropriate to reach out and use other labs that have the specific equipment that's needed to do some of this specialty work. And I'm being rather vague, but again, I'm not a scientist. So I think that there's more discussion that needs to take place. Cape citizens are counting on us, they're counting on you to provide them with the best possible research outcomes, to provide them with the most accurate outcomes of the research that we do, and to provide them with the best people in the world to do that research. I feel absolutely positively sure that two of those researchers are sitting right on the side of me. And as I said, this is the first time we've ever come and presented to you in all these years. And I hope that you'll please do all you can to support us to work on finding money so that we can collaborate in a way that will really best serve Cape citizens.
Have you had discussions with Andy Gottlieb or George recently, or George Hoyfelder
Been a
about
while.
No.
We did,
it's
well,
been a
it was
while. It's been
few
a
years
couple
ago.
of years, yes. But I mean,
been a while.
okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to propose that we speak to those departments and maybe just have a discussion. Yeah, just have a discussion as to what are they doing, what are you doing, where can we have a nexus there.
I think that would be great.
And I think, and if there's a road that we can go down together, where your focus, even though there is a lot of data coming out of that alternative septic, it is focused on certain things, and I'm not sure.
Nitrogen, mostly.
Mostly nitrogen, but if we can then have a partnership where some of those samples are, our health department's looking at our nitrogen levels and that sort of thing that we're all grossly involved
That's the
with.
focus, yeah.
But also bring in this other focus. It would undoubtedly foster the argument going forward as to what systems work best where are the larger concentrations of these chemicals in our water, and how could that might have an impact on the type of system that town adopts. So I think the timing is almost late, but not too late. It's never too late. So
Never too late.
yeah, and because nothing's been really built and
Just one final thing. I wanted to just mention to you that the federal EPA has been studying on-site septic systems, decentralized systems, for some time, and they have come up with some data. I know that I get that when I go to the National Association of County Officials, because most of the treatment of human waste is done on an on-site basis across the country, and they have developed an awful lot of information on it, and they've collected a lot of data. And I wondered if you've looked at some of that in terms of, because it is readily available and is in the public record, as all of our stuff I think is. I think we
Yeah, the
posted-
data is
is public record, and I believe that the information on what we do is posted on the web page.
Yeah, a lot of it. I mean, you can't go into the web page and just look at exactly what kind of testing the lab can do. I don't think it's that specific, so we'll have to.
Well, we do know that the testing for personal care products, the equipment is expensive. Well, what you have to pay in order to get those tests. And the method of treatment is expensive as well, far more expensive than just treating nitrogen. So
Exactly.
we know that for a fact that those costs are higher. But it doesn't mean that we don't have to look at them, and we have to find a way to do both.
And one of the resolutions that we're
protect as
going
well as
forward,
treat.
at NACO is to take a look at methods to prevent these personal care products and pharmaceuticals from
Getting
entering, getting
Yeah, some of it's
into
awareness.
supply.
Yeah,
The increased
education.
awareness for it.
Yeah.
It's all part of
So
the
why don't
package.
we, through Mark, set up a meeting for you to meet with George Hoyfelter and with Andy Gottlieb from the Collaborative and see how we can take your request and move it forward.
Wonderful.
How would that be?
Yeah.
And Mark can
Be
coordinate
first step.
that with you.
Probably do it on a Wednesday because the
A
collaborative
Wednesday.
meets on a Wednesday.
That's right, and they're
set
here
up
and we're
after
here,
that.
so we can, some of us can be part of that discussion as well.
And the executive steering committee is tomorrow afternoon, and I will bring up this that you came
Thank you.
to us and kind of give them a heads up as to the importance.
No,
of
it's also.
Yes, that's Diane. Thank you.
And I do think it's important to reiterate that the work we do, even though we are a breast cancer research organization, to reiterate what Ruth Ann already said, is that the work we do will benefit other disease, other health issues, not just breast cancer. I think that's an important point to make. Ruth Ann, do you have
I just
anything,
have
Laura?
just one other kind of specific example of how, so by better understanding, especially the treatments that are being considered here on the Cape, whether it's centralized or septic system, and kind of which contaminants are effectively removed and which ones aren't, that also can help focus the upstream efforts. So on the things that aren't effectively removed. So if it's pharmaceuticals, to focus on pharmaceuticals. If it's certain ingredients of personal care products, to somehow raise public awareness about those. And so I think there are a lot of ways that that the research will kind of inform decision making about how to overall improve the water, improve water quality.
And I think by collaborating with the county, we have a different, we can have a different reach other than those who are very focused in on maybe they've had a disease or a loved one. So those people are very in tune. But then there's the general population that we can help get that
Well,
information.
like the awareness, maybe
The
that's
awareness.
something that we can build into, like Mike McGuire doing the household hazardous waste collection.
Right.
You focus on, bring your paint and your oil and stuff, but don't forget, don't throw your
Right.
leftover whatever else stuff down the drain either.
Right.
He can build
Right.
that into his presentation.
Eventually,
We had a
Keith.
call from a Yarmouth health official who's introducing a ordinance that would ban the flushing of unused pharmaceuticals, and that he has the police department lined up to offer to collect and hold, and then the town would pay for the cost of incineration every once in a while. So that kind of thing that could really spread.
Great model.
That's the model for the nation. That's the first. That will
Okay.
be the first in the U.S.
Would that be discussed tonight, do you think? Or is the focus a little different?
I might mention
Mhm.
that point, but it's a little
To
bit
get
more to.
towns thinking about doing things like that, that's a really good idea.
I think it's also, in the specific case of pharmaceuticals, though, it's important to keep in mind that while flushing of medications is one source, no one's done a study to quantify it, but most people think that the majority of pharmaceuticals and wastewater comes from medications that you take because your body doesn't absorb it all. So it's
not the
it's
solution.
certainly
Right.
The complete solution.
some people say it's only 10 or 20% is what's flushed, unused and expired medications. So the majority of the pharmaceuticals ending up in the wastewater comes from proper usage and just your body doesn't absorb it all.
Right.
So that's only part of the solution. Wastewater is still going to contain these chemicals. People still take medication. So
Biological impacts, consequences.
I remember in the 70s I was in Ireland, and they couldn't figure out why Americans were taking so many vitamins at the time, and they said, you have the richest urine in the world because of all of all the wonderful things you overtake, and it all gets flushed out. So, and that was 30 years ago.
As we come to the end of this, I wonder if it would be useful if, because you are on television, and it will, and this has a life of its own. It's on the internet, and it's and
Right now.
Streaming
now.
on the internet.
and it can be retrieved. It'll be shown on Saturday morning, I guess in a couple of weeks, on public access TV. If you were to give the folks a takeaway as to what you want to receive from the public, this would be an opportunity for you to do just that.
This is our talk show host. Well,
I would like to thank the Cape residents who've been supportive of our work through all these years, the women who participated in our breast cancer in the environment study and other supporters, the water superintendents who are supporting us. We appreciate all the support throughout the years, and we're really committed to continuing our work here on the Cape, and we think there's a lot of important questions still to be answered.
Now you have to ask them to do something. Call to action.
Yes.
Website, phone number,
Oh,
anything?
yeah, website.
Our website. So if you want to learn more about our work, you can visit our website at silentspring.org. We have a lot of information about our Cape water research, our household exposure studies, and helpful tips and action points for citizens. So.
If you have a private drinking water well and you might be interested in being part of the next phase of the study, you can contact us by email through the website and let us know that. We're keeping a file.
Good.
And also, if you're interested in volunteering with us at Silent Spring Institute, we'd love to have you. And if anybody's interested in making a donation, we accept donations to be able to continue to do our work.
501c3?
501c3, and thank you everyone for
Oh,
your
thank you for
support,
coming.
and we
It was
hope,
really,
look forward to working
a
with
very
you.
worthwhile discussion, and hopefully one that we will have some promise for
Now
in
you
the
know
very
what
near
10 minutes
future.
means in terms of county time.
I like it.
This is public comment. May I make one?
You may.
Sure.
It seems to me that one of the things that they are asking for is public outreach help, setting up meetings, and perhaps an AmeriCorps position, if not dedicated specifically to them, but to raising public awareness of public health issues on Cape Cod.
Very good suggestion.
Very good
good suggestion, because
I-
they are great kids.
You know, you had mentioned about Yarmouth is the first in the nation. I'd like to hear someone someday say Cape Cod
Right.
was the first in the nation. We're all of the 15 towns. Hear that? We could work on that together.
Yeah.
Right. Very good.
We're responsibly disposing of their pharmaceuticals.
Well, all of us on Cape Cod certainly appreciate all the work you do. It has a huge benefit for all of us who live here. So thank you again, and we'll see you very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you very
thanks. Mhm,
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay.
I wanted to